When I was a little kid, I would stay up late and watch TV without my parents realizing. This, of course, introduced me to late night TV. Something that little me just couldn't get enough of. It seemed so adult, all the programs that would play, and the local news station would often play infomercials and recordings of adult conduct at town hall before they would start the morning news at 6 a.m. Nothing seemed weird at first. I had been doing it the past couple of weeks, and the older, more mature TV was teaching me lots of new things that my parents were, I guess, too uncomfortable to teach me. They were shy people, and so my only outlet to learn about adult life was late night TV. I would watch these and learn, avidly. It almost became like second school to me. Then it got weird. The channel would suddenly switch to the local news station without warning and without me touching the dial. I would get up to switch the channel back to what I was watching, but the channel wouldn't change. I would watch the infographic, or whatever else happened to be on, for a while until it would let me change the channel. I was young and stupid and thought it was just the TV being weird, so I would always just shrug it off and move on. It would progressively get worse as the days wore on. No matter how many times I would switch the channel, the TV would go back to the news minutes later, sometimes even seconds. The jingle in the background of the scheduled programming list, always looping, quickly got stuck in my head. Night after night, I would sneak into the living room and sit mere inches from the screen to keep the noise low and watch the news station. I had given up on watching anything else and would sit entranced as the infomercials and discussions would quickly sink me into their adult world of numbers and big words. It would pull up the scheduled program listing off what the viewer would be watching that night, always ending back at 6 a.m. with the morning news. There was almost always an infomercial that would last about an hour, and then a recording of some of the events from town hall, and then some kind of special event like a talk on faith or culture. Always very patriotic, of course. It wasn't until after a few weeks of watching the late night news channel that it got even weirder. One day at around 4 a.m., the scheduled programming list pulled up along with that same jingle that was ingrained in my head. It was all normal. 2 a.m. was a recording of some happenings in town hall. 4 a.m. was a talk on television and its effect on the youth. 5 a.m. was paid programming, and the morning news at 6. It was progressing fine when all of a sudden the music stopped and the screen started to glitch. I looked away, the noise and visuals scaring me, until the music started again. I was surprised to find that there was now a section called Children's TV where the talk on television had previously been. It began to play, starting with a zoom in on a carnival showing children laughing and playing, but the sounds were distorted, and their laughing sounded like low, warbled screeches. The television screen suddenly cut in and out, and a cartoon was starting, with the audio back to normal. I watched as a hunter tried to catch a deer, getting outsmarted at every turn. I watched him set a bear trap for the deer, but the deer lured him into it, and his leg was caught in the trap. But instead of yowling and then getting angry and trying again like any other cartoon, this man screamed and cried in pain. He let out horrifying, agonizing, painful cries, and the deer ran away. He fell to the ground, and I watched as blood began to pour from his wound, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen, even when he was slowly picked at by birds, even as he nearly froze to death that night, and even when he soon died of dehydration and the elements. All of this showed to little me in the form of transitions. The man was reduced to bones, and the flowers began to grow, fertilized by his body. They were large and beautiful, and the deer came back, and it laughed and laughed. As it laughed, the screen grew fuzzier, and the sound rose in pitch until it was just a single high-pitched note. Finally, the cartoon ended and the jingle came back, and the rest of the night went as programmed. But the news station was never the same. It would suddenly distort and play loud, screeching sounds like metal scraping metal. It would always scare me. There was never a warning as to when it would happen, and the screen would seem to melt as the sound distorted. Then it would be normal again, like nothing happened. I was obviously scared, almost to the point of giving up on my midnight escapades to learn. But my curiosity of the world above mine, the adult world, had already sunk its claws into me. There was no turning back. Night after night, I would sit through the shrill screams and melted screens to see more. My sleeping schedule became so bad that my parents got me a doctor, thinking all the symptoms of having no sleep were due to an illness. This did not stop me. The distortions became worse and they lasted for longer. The bodies of the people in the commercials and in the town hall recordings and in the talks would all become dismembered, and their voices would all sink to incredibly low pitches. This, combined with the high-pitched shrieks, would lead to a symphony of hellish cries and devilish murmurs. Every night, the jingle would torment me, but I couldn't stop myself. Then one night, the news station was no longer available. It had stopped broadcasting. My life quickly got back on track. I slept better, and my grades at school improved. My health was also improving, very slowly, but enough to get me off any medicine I was previously on. My life was good. I lay in my bed one night, about to fall asleep, when I heard it. The jingle. I creeped into the living room, and the TV was on to full static screen. But the jingle was playing on loop. Never stopping, never ending, always playing. That jingle. I watched, entranced, as images would slowly emerge from the static and a monotone voice instructed me. I grabbed a knife. I grabbed tape, and I listened as the voice told me what to do. The voice was right, and I should listen to it. The voice was calming, the voice was right, the voice was smart, the voice was right, the voice sounded like flowers. The voice was right. Suddenly a loud distortion played on the TV, and the breaking up of frequencies, it interrupted the voice. The calming voice was gone. That monotone voice, what was it? I heard a gasp and turned to see my parents trembling in the doorway. I quickly dropped the items in my hands and began to cry. Why had the voice said that? The voice was so kind-sounding. How could it ask me to kill them? To kill me? My life was never the same after that. Countless therapists, all of them telling me the channel, the voice, the flowers. None of it was real. It was all in my head that I was sick. They gave me medicine and it suppressed my emotions. I was a shell. My parents died. They were old and it was the nature of things, but it hurt. It hurt worse than that night in the living room when the jingle came on and the voice had talked to me. The kind and calming voice. I can't find any evidence to this day of that channel existing, and it's become my sole purpose in life, to find the channel, to find out who broadcast it and why they did it. And why, yesterday, they had played the jingle on my TV.